I don't really remember any dreams. I remember I used to have lots of dreams when I was a child, of riding a horse along roads, and big gaps that opened up, and the horse had to keep jumping further and further across the gaps. I'm sure that's quite an archetypal dream. In my mind, the first thing I think of is a place that isn't on Earth. It's a place that is in my imagination. But because I haven't travelled half as much as I would like to, I know that there is a paradise on Earth, and I just haven't seen it yet. It would be peaceful and sunny all the time, but not too hot, not burning hot. It's got no limits to where you can drive to, or walk, or swim to. But most importantly, the company would be more important than anything I could see, or touch, or feel. Paradise would be a place where I'm surrounded by people I love. I've never been to Seville in Spain, and it sounds like paradise to me, because I imagine it has orange trees growing everywhere because of Seville oranges. And I imagine that it's warm and there's a lot of greenery. And I somehow imagine that it's constructed like orange groves, and that the streets would all be long and straight and overshadowed by these beautiful trees. And I imagine that the buildings would all be white, and that the air would smell of oranges and be fragrant and beautiful, and everybody would be well because they eat oranges all the time. The city I live in is surrounded by hills and is very beautiful, and it has not ever realised its full potential. The city I live in is very hard to get around because our transport system has been arranged along sectarian lines. So, in order to go anywhere, you have to go into the centre and out again. A river runs through it, and it's built on slič, which is moving mud, but is very small and surrounded by 7 hills, and all red brick and very new, because it wasn't here 200 years ago. I live in a city that famously went through an industrial boom in the early 1900s for our shipmaking and other such building abilities. It's full of geniuses, scientifically, artistically. We're part of the UK, but we're also part of Ireland. We have a river running the whole way underneath the city, which is why it stinks. We've got growing tourism in the place where I live, but I constantly worry that every time they come over, the first thing they notice is the smell. It really stinks. But that's because we're kind of built on top of water. I remember my aunt and uncle. They were both business people, very warm and loving and generous and present. My best friend at school was called Anne, and she died when she was just 40. And she was the best fun of anyone I ever met. I can remember walking into town with her on my way home from school and laughing so hard that I had to hold onto a lamppost to stop myself from collapsing in the street. And she was just always surprising, always funny, and a really loyal friend. But we lost touch after we both got married, and I moved away, and I didn't even know she died till I read it in the paper, in the death notices. It was just a horrible shock, and I still miss her. In an exercise exploring themes of space, both interior and exterior, he asks 3 different people the same 4 questions. Describe the city you live in. Describe a place you've never been that would be like paradise for you. What do you think it would be like? Tell us about someone you knew who is no longer here. Describe a memory you have of them. Tell me about a dream you remember. He collects their answers and asks an actor to read them back, as if in one voice. The act of recording a voiceover is risky. He cannot change his mind about his ideas now, or go back and edit what was said. What's done is done. He is filming the city that he lives in. At the last minute, while setting up his camera, he catches a woman lighting a cigarette, framed perfectly between a lamppost and a shop window. In that moment, in time, she becomes, to him, sculptural, posed, like a model or like a work of art. She is remarkable because she is standing still in a river of Christmas shoppers. She becomes the subject, but she is not subjected by him. She stopped because she wanted to have a smoke, not become a work of art. She is free to come and go as she pleases, and because she wants to, she turns around and walks back the same way that she came. He turns his camera on commuters, on a city bus, framed through steamy windows, sleeping, chatting. They are unaware they are being observed by a class of art students and considered art. I know for sure that I have no question over my own sexuality, but I dreamt that I was going out with my mum's best friend. Then, during the course of the dream, I realized that I was a young man, and I didn't like her, but I had to marry her, and I didn't want to have to marry her. But whether I liked it or not, we were engaged. In my dream, I was progressively finding more and more reasons to dislike her. Dislike the fact that I had to marry her, and dislike myself for being in the situation. I have a dream quite often that tomorrow is Christmas and I haven't bought the turkey. And I know it's an anxiety dream. And I think I know why I have that dream. When I was growing up, my father had done a favour for a man called P.J. McQuaid, and every year P.J. McQuaid gave my father a turkey. But we never knew when P.J.'s turkey was coming. Sometimes it could come on Christmas Eve, and sometimes it could come the day before Christmas Eve, and my mother used to have to pluck the feathers off it and draw the insides out of it. The idea of the fourth wall was made explicit by philosopher and critic Denis Diderot and spread in 19th century theatre with the advent of theatrical realism, which extended the idea of an imaginary boundary between any fictional work and its audience. In an alleyway, a couple are smoking and flirting. Upon becoming aware that he is filming, the subject breaks the fourth wall and waves at the camera, ruining the shot. I don't really remember any dreams. I remember I used to have lots of dreams when I was a child, of riding a horse along roads, and big gaps that opened up, and the horse had to keep jumping further and further across the gaps. In my mind, the first thing I think of is a place that isn't on Earth. It's a place that is in my imagination, But because I haven't travelled half as much as I would like to, I know that there is a paradise on earth, and I just haven't seen it yet. It would be peaceful and sunny all the time, but not too hot, not burning hot. It's got no limits to where you can drive to, or walk, or swim to. Paradise would be a place where I'm surrounded by people I love.